podcast where Belgium tech meets Belgium fries. I'm Sebastian, your host. We're here to talk with startup founders about their early days, how they turned ideas into products, and tackled the challenges of building and selling the first version of their app, the MVP, the minimum viable product. And because my best ideas come while waiting in the frituur, we'll be doing this over fries and a favorite snack. Today we're at the Vriendschap in Ghent, and we're about to dive into some golden fries and golden ideas. Today's guest is Michiel Bearelle. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we have Michiel Bearelle, one of the founders of Vendorvue, also one of the founders back in the past of Officient. And voilà, Vendorvue is a platform that provides companies with a comprehensive overview and enrichment of data in their procurement process. Might be still a bit vague, but he's going to explain it in a more concrete way. All right, Michiel, my first question I have for you is if you have to explain the concept of a frituur to somebody that doesn't know the concept, how would you do it?
Okay. Well, actually, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a video of Average Rob who was inviting Valtteri Bottas
saw that one.
to the Belgium culture of eating. And one of the things was, okay, this is a frituur. And he explained it like, okay, Valtteri was thinking you can just grab some French fries over there, they put a sauce on it, and it's done. But he came in and he saw all these kinds of meats and side dishes and they made they made things with a lot of meats and fries and sauces onto each other. Like, for example, in Ghent, everyone knows the julienne, of course. So that's probably also how I would explain it. But it was curious to see that other people in other countries often don't know about the concept of a frituur. They know French fries, but they don't have the idea of what a frituur is like.
Okay, cool. Do you have your go-to frituur?
I live in a small village, 20 minutes below Ghent. And it's not like a city center when you have 35 options. We have 2 options. I have one home frituur in Wielsbeke. It's called Frituur Evelien.
Voilà.
So if you are in Wielsbeke, chances are small, but...
Shout out.
Yeah, Frituur Evelien.
All right. Indeed, in the city you have more options, but in a small town you have to make do with that. All right, cool. Before we dive deeper into Vendorvue, what is your go-to order in a frituur, or what did you order today?
I ordered today a small bakje with the stovrie sauce on it, with a potje of mayonnaise and a bouletje.
All right.
So it's rather classic. I had a period that I loved the julienne and the rombootje and all those kind of things. But it's very good when you look at it in the beginning. But if you're in the half of your dish or at the end, you're like, okay, this is too much on top of each other. So I started to go basic back again.
It starts feeling like a brick in your stomach.
Just too much.
All right, cool. We had a guest here as well in the Vriendschap. And he went for a julienne, and he said it was a really good one over here.
But I already had a julienne over here. I have a friend of me who is living, I think, 1 street away, and we already ordered a julienne here.
Perfect. All right, nice. So the noise that you're hearing right now is the frituur people preparing our orders. So hopefully it's coming up quite soon and we can do a bit of eating during the interview. But we're actually here to talk more about the company that you recently or that you founded called Vendorvue. My first question is super simple. Can you explain Vendorvue and maybe also take us back to the beginning? Where did the idea come from and how did you start or co-found the company?
Maybe to just setting the scene, I'm in tech for 10 years now. First worked in Amsterdam for Social Express. We did social media reporting software, sold it to Red Bull, Egon Bank, ABN AMRO, and then came back to Ghent after that, started working with Team Leader. Then after Team Leader, started my own company, Officient, HR software. And now I'm in Vendorvue. And the thing is, I like B2B software. So like most Belgium startups, but just solving a problem in a company, in my case, most in complex, boring kind of thing. So I like the phrase, they have to do it and nobody likes to do it. Often sounds very boring. That's mostly in the boring stuff. But it's great to automate that. We did it with Officient in payroll software, and we now are doing it in Vendorvue with procurement.
All right.
Now,
Thank you.
It's here. Yeah, thanks. Should we just take one before we talk?
Yeah,
just to taste.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we need the crispy sound? No.
Some people they have like a phobia against it, so we might have to move away.
It's actually a lot of French fries for a small basket.
Yeah. But that's what I like.
Yeah, that's really cool. But no, Vendorvue. I sold my previous company, Officient. After acquisition, been there for 2 more years to integrate the company into the larger organization. And after that, I took a small sabbatical, did some trips. And at a certain point, I was seeing that my screen time was going up again. And I thought, okay, I'm back into researching things, investigating things. And what I like the most about that is just going into companies and just researching departments. What are you guys doing on marketing, on sales, on finance, on production, logistics, everything. So just spotting processes, spotting problems. And I thought, okay, there must be an idea that can come out of this. And at a certain point, I was at the procurement department, and I saw, okay, it's like sales, but the way around actually. So and what you see in sales is they often have many tools. They have already implemented AI and all kind of scripts and things to improve their sales cycles. But if you're looking to procurement, it's a whole other world at this point. So especially in manufacturing companies, for example, let's take the example of buying a chemical, for example. They buy the chemical, but they also want to do the investigation of the company. Is this a future-proof supplier? Can they sign my, for example, supplier code of conduct, the anti-corruption thing, and so on? Then they have a good supplier at the other side of the table. Then they have to make a contract, and when all things are done, they can buy the chemical. But after that, they start working into administration back again, because they have compliancy and they have to have things ready for audits and for their clients. So you're talking about REACH compliance documentation, about material safety data sheets, about technical data sheets, about ESG information. So those are all a whole bunch of documents and administration questionnaires. Can you confirm this? Can you give us that? And it's a hassle, because you bought the chemical, you just want to use it in your production, and let's move on to the other things that you need to source. So what Vendorvue is doing is we automate the administration and the compliance part of your procurement department. So we're just making sure that we have all the right documents for the right suppliers. We investigate all those documents. So in some companies, you see that they have, for example, 100 suppliers. They receiving 10 documents of each supplier. Then you have 1,000 documents. Often we see that they just say, okay, check, we have them, but they don't take the time to go into that and read all those small letters. So we doing the sanity checks, just researching the documents on all the metadata that is in it. Then making sure they're up to date, they are compliant with your own internal processes or terms, just keeping the hassle away from that procurement person. Okay. That is what we do.
Nice. All right. That's indeed a clear explanation. So you were at this sabbatical year after Officient, and that's the moment where you started doing research and you discovered this problem, or how did you specifically touch this?
So in the first part of the sabbatical, like I said, took some trips, spent some family time. I also invested in 10 or 12 startups at this point. So helping a half a day over there and spend some times with another co-founder to solve some problems, but not taking responsibility or something. So if I had a week that I didn't want to do stuff or business stuff, it was perfectly fine to do that. So it's a sabbatical, but you're still doing stuff, of course, privately in your family time, but also a little bit business wise.
More on your own terms.
Yeah. But at a certain point, you just get the feeling, okay, I want to start building again, especially after that sabbatical when you had the time to think about almost everything. And I saw in myself. So in the first week, I was a stockbroker. Then the second week I was a real estate investor, and then the second week I was a garden planner. So you do a whole bunch of things, but at a certain point you said, I'm not an investor die hard. I'm not a garden planner either.
No.
I just want to go back to my core and just build software and building a new startup. And that's when I just reach out to companies around my hometown, and I just can I talk to your marketing person? Can I talk to your to your procurement person and just validate some things, spot some things, and that's how the Vendorvue idea was born.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So it came out of a successful startup or a company with Officient, and you took the time to just investigate and find the next thing.
Yeah.
Really cool to hear that. How did you form your first team? Like, who are the co-founders in the company, and how did you find these people? What were like the important profiles you wanted there?
I think in the beginning, for me, it's all about sales and building. So you just want to have your products, and you just want to have a certain company that wants to pay for it. Basically, in the beginning, that's it. So I went for a technical co-founder. That was Anthony. And I also have a friend of me, Jean-Marc, known him for 8 years, I guess. Was a colleague within Team Leader, and is also a sales profile. But at the end of Officient, I was doing much more than sales. So I was into the finance department, into the acquisition at some point. And what you often see in a two-person startup is when there is, for example, a funding round. The sales kind of co-founder is putting all his efforts into reaching the funding amount, talking to investors and things like that. And often at that point, sales is just lacking behind, or pipeline is not continued anymore. So I thought, okay, if we are doing this with 3 persons, I can do a funding round, for example, but Jean-Marc is still going hard on sales, is still making sure we have deal growth during the time that we are spending time on other things also.
So that's maybe something that you learned from your previous companies, that if a sales founder has to do funding deals, sales is going down. That's something you want to do differently then?
Well, it was not the case within Officient because we bootstrapped it to the company. We didn't do a funding round.
Okay.
But it's something sometimes something that I see in other companies. We had a masterclass at the Winter Circus from Matthias Heroms, the co-founder of Lighthouse, about funding, and he was also saying, if you go into that funding round, make sure your sales is continued, and because at a let's say a Series A or something, you're gonna spend maybe 3 or 6 months in that round. If you are at, let's say, 1 million ARR at the beginning, and 6 months after that, you're still at that 1 million. And your reason is, but we didn't have the time to put our efforts in sales because we were talking to you. That's not a good situation to be in. In our acquisition talks with Exact, for example, I think every meeting when we went in, we could say we have 1,000 customers added since the previous meeting. So and that is something that they want to see. They want to they want to speak with you on different time slots, and they want to see your growth. So if you're saying to an investor, we are here, and in 6 months we're gonna be there, and that's on average the time to raise funding. He wants also the numbers after 6 months.
So do you think that's a trap that a lot of startups fall in these days?
No, it's not. It's not something to focus on, because otherwise you could say, okay, I need 4 co-founders that are doing sales to maximize my funding, and so no. But it's a good thing to have, or it's a good thing to have in mind, especially that if you're spending time on your marketing or on your customer success, onboarding those first clients. Just don't forget your pipeline. Don't forget to grow and to make the new deals. Because if you close those first 10 clients and you're spending all your time to onboard them, after that you're back at 0 new clients. So make sure your next 10 are lining up after that.
All right. Very interesting.
I'm a sales guy, so it's also. A little bit in my space, of course, to say such things.
All right. So for that core team of Vendorvue, you have you as a kind of CEO role, I guess, a technical person, another salesperson. How did you start building the first version of your product? Was it just with that team, or you immediately hired people?
No. What I believe that you, before you hire some people, before you even start the company officially, before incorporation, you just have to go on the market. So we started development and sales at the same day. And we just went to companies, okay, this is our ID, our product, our mission, our vision. And do you have the same problem, or are you also looking into solutions in that space? And if the answer is yes, just make a deal, because we wanted to make sure that we had clients and feedback and usage ASAP. So we as soon as possible, because you don't want to build a product for like 1 year, and then after that, come to the conclusion that you made the wrong features because your ID is maybe not 100% aligned. It's in the good direction, and 60 or 70% is good stuff. But maybe you spend 30% of your time making features that clients are saying, okay, but this is not exactly how it goes or how we can use it. We believed just go onto the market, close that first deal, be transparent about it, make them pay, because liking something and paying for it is often not next to each other. That was our strategy.
Okay. And so when did you acquire your first customer? Did you already have a first version of the product? Or?
So let's say in terms of timing, I've made a deal with my co-founders beginning of 2024. Then, doing the research together with them, we made some MVP. There's some features, some modules just hacked together to just showcase in a demo. We killed a module, I think, 1 month after that. They were liking it, but they didn't want to pay for it. And then the idea that is Vendorvue today is 6 or 7 months old, I guess. We started the company officially in July, end of July. And we now have our first 10 customers. We have our first, in terms of numbers, 100K ARR. So we started with early believer license. That was our first product. And we said, hey, we're building this. We showed them what our MVP and our hacked thing together. Do you want to go with us for a license fee of 12 months and also giving us feedback, and that's how we started. And then after that we hired people, did the funding round, and
Okay, nice. So that's really fast from starting the company to entering the market already. Do you think is it because you had this experience from past ventures? How did you make it happen so fast? Because it sounds like
I did the same with Officient.
Okay.
So I remembered that my first client of Officient was Dropsolid, also a company here in Ghent. And they bought an Officient license, and the only thing that you could do with the product back then was fill in a first name and a family name and the birth date. So that was the only thing. But we had the designs ready. We had the roadmap ready, and we could say, okay, but as of next week, we can do this and this and this. And can we validate that with your case? So same thing. I was just, okay, I'm a sales guy. I'm not the person to wait for 6 months before I have a product that is ready for the market or for a first client. Just go out and try to sell it.
And what if the product team doesn't deliver it in time? Because you put a lot of pressure on them then?
Yeah, you put pressure on that, but that's the beginning of the startup, and that's also the story of the startup. You have to sometimes make a promise and then come back to your team and say, yeah, guys, I promised something. It's going to be hard, but hey, let's do it, and then just go for it.
Yeah, and what I often also see is that startups in the beginning, they sell a lot to the first customers just to sell, and then they build a lot of custom features. Is it also something that you're following with Vendorvue, or you have a more unified product idea?
We have our ideas of use cases, of modules or future potential modules. So we try to keep those feature requests or those other problems that we spot into our scope. So it's we're not going to build custom things. So it needs to be scalable and to use with other clients. So no, if a client come to us and they say, hey, could you build this special custom feature only for me, but we are going to give you 100K for that, I would say no.
Yeah, okay.
No.
I think that's a smart choice.
Yeah. We also did that with Officient. So now saying no to that 100K would be easier because we had the funding. But even with Officient, we bootstrapped it. So we didn't have quite a lot of money, and we even would have did the same thing. So just say no to that very specific use case.
Okay, cool. Maybe it's interesting to talk a bit more about the funding part, because with Officient you went on the bootstrap way, and now with Vendorvue you quickly raised. How much did you raise?
1.4 million. Yeah.
Why did you choose now to raise instead of in the past you did it differently?
The main difference is just Officient was a national champion. So we went into payroll laws. We went to just the Belgium ecosystem of payroll providers also. And if you drive 1 hour north or south or east, you have a different payroll law. So you have to change your whole system. You have to kill features in that country, make new features that don't exist into that specific country laws. So at a certain point, we say, okay, are we going to make this for example, France? But then you see, okay, we have to change maybe 50% of our system to do that. So we just chose to be the national champion. And also something that Matthias used, if you take the check, you never go back, you can never go back. You have to choose eitherwise you bootstrap and then you can be for example, national champion, but then don't raise money for that, because we also had term sheets from investors at that point. And sometimes you think, okay, we can take the money, we can try it and so on. But if you be radical on that and just do the research good and came to the conclusion that it's going to be very hard and taking a lot of money. You also have local competitors already doing quite a good job. Then just be realistic and go for the national champion trophy. Yeah. And with Vendorvue, our clients at this point, they already have branches in other countries. We are talking to companies in other countries. And the difference is that if we are applicable to laws at this point, like EUDR or CBAM or ESG things, it's mostly on a European level or a global level that they are written out. So
And so for you, raising funding, it was something quite new, even though you sold Officient, you invested yourself, but this was the first time you raised money?
It was the first time that I raised money, but within Officient, I also kept the conversation with the VCs, because you never know, at some point you spot some feature or module that you can say, hey, this is scalable, can be used without the payroll laws on top of it. So I kept the conversations going, and so I had some experience and some network within the VC in the VC landscape, and I already invested myself in other companies. So I was already a few times on the other side of the table. So,
So for you, it more depends on what your product is, what your market is it scalable or not, to make the decision, bootstrap, funding?
I think that's the things you should look for. And of course, in the beginning, you can go for a national trophy, bootstrap things, but maybe after 4 years, spot some features or module or business models that you can use in other countries, and then take the money or take the check. But often you see some companies that are raising money. Just, we have an idea, we need some money. They raise money. They become the national champion, but the investor saying, hey, we thought you were going after the world or going after Europe. And that's something you should be aware of course. So on the other side, maybe you have some angels and some VCs or investors that are okay to invest in the national champion.
Right.
But you should be transparent about that, I guess. So
All right, interesting. I want to focus a bit more about your go-to-market strategy and the first customers you acquired, because you went pretty fast. In July you started, and you're now already having 100K ARR. How did you approach that? How did you manage to get your first customers without a working product. And then also you probably have to look at some regulations that your product needs, like some kind of certificates, things like that. What are or were the challenges there, and how did you overcome it so fast?
Well, like I said, we did the research. We already spoke to some companies. We aligned our information out of that research with our ID or product vision, and then just went back to that companies, and just like I already said, we said, okay, this is our ID or the features that we are going to build. Are they matching with your problem? If yes, can we make a deal? That it's nothing more than that.
And how did you got in touch with the right companies? Did you find an ideal profile for your customers?
Yeah, we just started to shoot on a wide range, and then we saw that we had traction on manufacturing, food industry, chemicals, pharma. So that's that kind of companies. Complex situation, often sourced around the world, have many suppliers. They need 30 components to make their new product from 17 suppliers. So that was our typical client. And then we made sure, so in the beginning, you go to the companies that you know, people that you know, asking for introductions to other friends, and then also did some cold outbound. So I think we sent it out thousands LinkedIn messages like, hey, can we just talk to you, validate our ID, doing some research on your company. We're not going to sell you something, but we want to have a first conversation. And we ended up with quite a lot of meetings. Yeah. And then after that, they are curious about it. So often they stay in touch and they say, hey, if you have something,
can you solve the problem?
Yeah. And if you could solve, if you can solve the problem, I'm curious to see it. And then they move to your sales pipeline, of course.
So it's a super targeted, focused.
And also making sure you're asking money for it, because I already said, otherwise, many people going to say, "Oh, great idea! Oh, yes, great idea! Large potential market." But then, if you give them an offer of, would you buy it now at this point for 10K? Then they all say, "Oh, it's not the right timing. It's super busy. We need to handle these things first." And then you can see, okay, do they like it? Just because they want to be positive and they want to help you, or is it a problem that they want to solve and to spend money on? So that's a huge differentiator, and that is what we did, and also did the cold outbound, because if you have a meeting and you're introduced by the CEO because he's a longtime friend, it's a little bit, it's another meeting than just a cold outbound. Didn't spoke before. We don't have any connections in common, and this is my problem and my product. Often that is just that typical, more directly into feedback and problem looking.
Is that also one of the reasons why I like B2B SaaS? Because you can be so focused. We have to target that target group. Just go for it. You don't need big marketing campaigns or whatever. Or
that's what I like about B2B. And it's also I never did something else before, so maybe it's also a comfort zone. I guess. Had a great first experience with Social Express. Had a great educational training within my period in team leader. So let's build on that experience. And I think Belgium is also more a B2B software country than it's a B2C one.
All right.
Because if you go into B2C, you have to indeed spend a lot on the marketing side. You have to be global thinking, not on day one, but minus 10 days. So it's a whole other game, and I don't have experience with that. I don't know a lot of people doing that. I don't know former colleagues or people that I want to hire in that space. So yeah.
Okay.
B2B.
Okay. All right. So how is the team? How is it structured today? Because do you still have the feeling that you're working on your MVP, or are you already past that stage? Or
We're getting past that stage. For example, our first client, it took us 3 months to onboard them, because they were aligned on that product and on the MVP, and then we were building some more features, and then they came back, okay, but we have Ucotex certificates, and we were like, okay, Ucotex, never heard that before, so investigating, researching, asking them how does it works, and so on. And now, for example, we onboarded a client. Was it this? No, it was last week. And they said, we have those Ucotex certificates. We have those type of documents. This is our process. And we were like, okay, we saw that before. We can handle this. Our product is ready for this. Yeah. So we're going to onboard them in probably 1 week instead of 3 months. So you see that in some sales meetings, in onboardings, that the same features are coming back, the same applicable laws or documents or types of certificates are coming back. So, and that's our first step to product market fit.
Okay. It's going quite fast. So how is the team structured today then?
We're with 8 people. So my technical co-founder he has 2 colleagues, 2 developers. We have a product person next to that. We have a customer success person onboarding the first clients. Then we have 2 people on sales, including 3 including myself, but like I said, I already spent some time on getting the finance metrics and other stuff. So that is the team today.
Okay. Yeah. And how are you looking to expand it? Do you have more funding needs at the moment, or do you want to grow organically with this team? Or
no, I'm not going into the pitfall of hiring too much people, because it's attractive to, you have the money and just hire people and scale things, but I want to have, for example, a dedicated customer success person who is onboarding and building processes into the company. And we're gonna hire somebody else in the customer success team when the house is on fire and we cannot handle it anymore. Okay. So because first, you need to have people that can take that responsibility. That you can say, okay, this is going well, and it's because of the impact of that person. And if things go bad, okay, we have to talk with that person and improve some things in that specific team. So we're gonna hire a customer success person because at this point Gert-Jan is doing that, and he was our chief of staff at Officient. Okay. So he's good at finance. He's good at he's doing some marketing stuff also. He's just doing whatever it takes and what we need at this point. So at a certain point, we had to do customer success, onboard the clients, and he was raising his hand, and I said, okay, I'm going to take care of that. Okay. But we want to have a new person on customer success. We're going to add 1 developer, maybe 2, to the team. And we just hired our first non-native non-native Dutch-speaking salesperson.
Okay, yeah. For other markets.
For other markets, He's a French speaking person, raised by a German mother and has a Spanish girlfriend, I guess. So he's
That's
good in that 3 languages. To go to Southern Europe.
Did you rely on any external help, freelance agencies in the beginning or at one point building the product? And
well, not an agency, but some freelancers for short term of period. For example, in the beginning, you're building your product. You're making sure it's okay in terms of UX UI design. But it's not state of the art. It's looking okay, but it's not looking great. Sometimes you have to click 4 times and instead of just doing that in one click. And at a certain point, we ask a designer. Here you have 8 screens. Can you design them? Can you make sure we have a design UI kit? And then we can go from there. So. That is something that we did.
That's often a role that I see that startups do rely on a freelancer or an agency like the design part, because you need some basics in the beginning and then you can go further on. Yeah. All right.
And if we have a complex feature, we still reach out to that to that freelancer. And say, hey, can you design this particular feature or giving feedback on how it works today? So,
and do you feel that that person has enough context to always jump into it? Because there may be weeks doing something else, and then Vendorvue comes back in.
No, and in the beginning, he was just like, okay, I'm gonna do the design. So maybe I'm gonna make mistakes on certain modules or features, but it's okay. How is this button look instead of what does it do when I click on it?
Yeah.
So it was design first, and because he designed it, we already reached out for some other features. He's starting to know the product and the market and the thing that we have to do, and he can give more specific feedback at this point.
Okay, cool. So now the context is more and more there for that person.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're already reaching the end of our conversation. Time really flies. Like I said in the beginning, I have 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
So the story of Vendorvue is quite new, but are there already some mistakes or big mistakes that you made since the beginning that you would do differently if you had to start over again tomorrow?
Let me think. Maybe we didn't make the mistake, but we made the decision quite fast to kill the first MVP that we had.
Yeah.
So we had the idea for 2 modules. So we want to do a basic thing, sourcing, and then during the sourcing process, we're gonna do the administration and the compliance. And we started with building the sourcing feature, and then companies were very enthusiastic about it, but it wasn't. They didn't have the time pressure to buy a product for that, or to buy a new product for it. So we just say, hey, this is nice to have. This is not need to have. Things are working at this point. We should kill that module, because at that point we already started with the second one, and they say, okay, you're also handling the administration and compliance and make sure all those things are automated. Yeah, okay, we don't like that. We just want to get rid of that. Let's bring it in.
Okay.
So the feedback on the second module was way better than the first one, and we immediately just killed the first one.
So you didn't have any customers using that module?
No.
Much, yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. We had feedback. We had a lot of meetings. We had some offers on the table, but it was just way too slow. And I think at a certain point, there would be some clients and they would using it, but the speed on the second module or the other part of the idea was just faster. So we say, okay, skip the first one and double down on the second one. So that was something. And other mistakes, maybe I'm a sales guy, and at a certain point we used a lot of tools to scale up our outbound. So we said, okay, we are now just sending LinkedIn messages. We should send 3,000 LinkedIn messages instead of 100. Can we scale that with a certain tool? And used a lot of tools. They didn't work. So we saw, and you're probably gonna experience that yourself. Your LinkedIn inbox is full of messages with all those AI bots reaching out. Mail is exactly the same. And then at a certain point, we said, okay, stop all those tools, and we're just gonna go cold calling.
Okay.
And that worked out very good. Yeah,
old school. Calling.
Yeah.
Wow.
So at a certain point, I think it's also good to be authentic or something, or just going to do the old-fashioned cold calling, instead of always looking for the next AI bot or AI agent to scale up things or to improving things. It's not something we not going to do anymore. But yeah, sometimes just to go to the basics.
Yeah,
especially in the beginning. So when you're a scale up and when you are with let's say 5 people in the sales team, we probably gonna test another AI agent or some tool to improve or to scale, of course. But at a certain point, we said, stop all those AI agents and go cold calling.
Is it maybe also because your target group is more open to just an old-fashioned way approach, that it's not a lot of young tech people that you have to reach, but more procurement officers? Or
at some days, I also have that frustration of the amount of LinkedIn messages, and so it's not because they like old-fashioned or something. It's just at this point very hard to see through a large amount of messages to see, okay, this is something that I might be interested in.
Yeah. And then one day you get a message to join a podcast in a frituur.
Yeah.
And here you are.
Yeah.
All right, nice. I have one final question for you. We ask it to every guest on the podcast. It's coming from PandaPanda, so we like to do things differently. That's why we're doing a podcast in a frituur. And we call it being beastly, in a positive way. What was one of your beastly moments within Vendorvue that you had in the past periods where you did something differently, it gave you a success, or where you just felt like, now we're standing out next to the other companies that are doing all the things in the same way? Maybe the cold calling thing could be a thing.
Well, it's maybe comparing to some other startups going into sales very fast. Not waiting to have a large module to showcase or a product demo of 1 hour. Just go with your first feature and try to sell it. And then at this point, go back to cold calling maybe. Just make sure you ship a lot of features. So don't spend time on, okay, but we have to write code that it's still working when we are with 1,000 companies on the system. No, don't do that. There are 10 companies today. Make sure it works when we are with 100. And during our road to 100, we're going to improve it, that it's still working with 500.
Yeah.
So don't spend... I think bad code that works is better than state-of-the-art code that doesn't that doesn't sell or work. Yeah. So just go fast on your features also. And okay, you don't have to make rubbish or get your security done, for example, and just make the basic that the basics are right. But you can start refactor your system as after 2 weeks of development. But spend time on that features for the clients and make sure they see the system change after just week after week.
Okay, good. think that's a good way of ending this episode. Thank you very much. That was it today for Business Speciàl. Thank you, Michiel, from Vendorvue, for joining us, sharing the story.
They still have, we can still eat them.
We can still eat
they're
them.
not
That's
cold
perfect.
yet. Yeah.
Very
perfect.
Good. A shout out to the Fritschap and Sam for hosting us and giving this delicious fries. Also, big thanks to Vince, the producer. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks. Also, thanks for having me.
Business Speciàl.